conducted in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by advertisement in the Cape May Star and Wave on the Township website and posted on the bulletin boards of Township Hall.
Thank you. I asked retired Sergeant First Class John Trainer to lead us to a pledge of allegiance and moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Conrad? Here. Councilmember Perry? Here. Councilmember Roy? Here. Mayor Simmons?
Here. Okay, when we break down the work session, and the first thing in the work session is a resolution to appoint a deputy mayor to the position that's vacated right now. Just real quick to explain the process, the Lower Township Republican Club, or party I should say, they have a process to go through a nomination process and to submit 3 names to council, and with the 3 names we will vote to appoint the deputy mayor if a motion is moved forward. Okay, so clerk, do you have the 3 names?
Yes, we do. It's David Perry, John Reckner, and Bob Bosco.
Okay, do we have a motion from council to appoint one of the 3?
I'll make a motion to accept David Perry.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Julie, you read the resolution?
A resolution confirming the appointment of Councilman David Perry to fill the vacancy of deputy mayor for the remainder of the term.
Okay, the council comments?
I believe we need to,
Right, except if there's a motion to appoint Mr. Perry would have to resign his position as one to the councilman, subject to being approved.
would this be the time that we promote?
No, we're going to get comments from the...
Well, we'll be subject to that resignation.
We'll take comments from council. Any comments? From the public, any comments?
Accept the nomination.
Yes.
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Roy?
Yes.
Mayor Sippel?
Yes.
Councilmember Perry?
Abstain.
Now, Sheriff Dolan, please come forward to swear in the new deputy mayor, please.
Raise your right hand, place your left hand on the Bible. I, David Perry, swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
Swear I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey.
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States
to the governments established in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and I will faithfully,
impartially, and justly
impartially, and justly
perform all the duties
perform all the duties
of the position of
of the
deputy mayor
position of Deputy Mayor
for the Township of Lower,
for the Township of Lower,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
So he has 2 of them in my process. Oh, good. I said, if we can. Sometimes he got over told his pants. Hey, Leon, how are you, buddy? Good stuff. Who's your accountant for? You didn't have to go up today. I thought he said you would. He was gonna try to stop it. So he told me he was going up today. I don't know if I ever made a meeting, that's why I know that. Like one a year. You're forgiven. I might make two this year. He gets it. That was took me since I retired. Now I made every I just made the money and come down and shoot.
Okay, we'll move on. We'll actually move on to the resolution 2020, the budget message introduction, and return of the two matters originally to introduce the budget.
Gentlemen, good evening. Before I start, and as you know, the budget process is certainly an arduous task. Sitting in front of you, in front of the rail, are two of the best in the business. A budget is a marathon, and our department heads have been staying in their lanes and doing more with less for almost 2 years to get into this position I will talk about shortly. Leon Costello is with us, is the professor of municipal finance in South Jersey. In many folks' opinion, and Lauren Reed is simply the best financial manager of any municipality in the county, and I'm proud to get in a bus with these folks and be able to drive it after months of planning for this budget. I am required by law to deliver a working document of our proposed 2020 budget to council by February 10th, and the council must approve by April 30th, 2020. I've met with all the department heads over the past 6 months putting this together for the purpose of compliance with the state of New Jersey spending cap laws and other budget regulations. The budget being presented tonight is compliant with the tax levy cap laws and the original spending cap laws. Our tax levy for 2020 is $21,335,186 compared to last year's $21,252,363, which is an increase of $82,823. We are below the legal spending cap by $1,693,431, and we are below the 2% levy cap by $2,045,300. Lower Township completed 2020 with a surplus of $8,493,797, which is an increase of $1,773,247. We are applying $2.5 million of the surplus to this year's budget, leaving a balance of $4.26 million. We are proud to announce there will be no tax increase in the 2020 budget, and this 0% increase is being done with major projects underway and with us eradicating massive amounts of debt in this budget. Projections anticipate fully restoring the fund balance used in this budget. We feel confident using this amount of surplus, and our bond rating continues to be very solid at this time. Our tax collection rate for 2019 was 98.98%, which was a record collection amount ever in Lower Township, and that also exceeded budget expectations and projections. This administration is strongly committed to public safety on our streets and in our schools, and we continue to offer police at the Lower Cape May Regional High School, as well as the Richard Titleman Junior High. This is one way we can proactively address any and all safety concerns that rise. Moving on to real estate. The total assessed value of real property in the township upon which the tax rate is based is $3,655,744,396 compared to the year before of $3,641,658,746, which is an increase of $14,085,650 in a 2020 budget, where 1 cent on our tax rate is equal to $365,744. This budget again uses 97.15% rate to compute the reserve for uncollected taxes in 2020. We are very optimistic about our shared service relationship with the County of Cape May regarding county dispatch and our new public safety building. The dispatch continues to grow with other municipalities coming on board, while our cost will be decreasing moving forward due to this growth. Our utilities in the new facility have also decreased dramatically due to energy efficiency and proper utilization of space. Our July 3rd Independence Day festivities, our new 9-week concert series, our Veterans Day, and Christmas parades are all fully funded in this budget. A public hearing is scheduled for March 18th at Town Hall at 7 p.m. A budget summary will be published in the Cape May Star and Wave. Copies will be available on the Township website as well as in the clerk's office at Town Hall. Thank you, gentlemen, for your continued support of your staff here in Lower Township.
Excuse me, Mayor. I'm sorry, Jim, the public hearing has been scheduled for March 2nd. We just changed that tonight.
Okay, for the record.
For the record.
Change that.
Thank you.
Before we release the financial team, do you have any questions
Yeah,
of
we were asking
Mr.
for that.
Costello or Lauren Reed at this time?
Anything you add to us? Tell us anything for the budget.
Just one quick thing. Jim covered basically everything we could possibly cover about the numbers. From the procedure standpoint, March 2nd will be the public hearing, at which time we'll field any questions that the public may have. The state will not allow us to adopt on March 2nd because the governor won't be doing his address till sometime in mid-March. So we'll have the public hearing on the 2nd, and then at some point, I'll let you know, you'll need another 2 minutes to take a vote to adopt the budget somewhere down the road.
Any council comments?
And it's a very, very good budget, obviously.
Julie, you want to read the resolution?
Resolution number 2020-67, the 2020 budget introduction, and the 2020 budget hearing, again, for the record, has been scheduled for March 2nd, 2020.
Any motion?
Make a motion. I'll second the motion.
Do we have enough?
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Roy?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Parry?
Yes.
Mayor Sippel?
Yes.
We'll see you in a month.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the work session is a presentation from the Dredge Material Project by DRVA. I ask that you come to the microphone, introduce your staff, please.
Good evening, my name, Good evening, my name is Greg Pulowski. I'm a senior project engineer with the Delaware Bay Authority. I'm also the person responsible for the project that you're going to be hearing a presentation on this evening. Behind me is our Chief Operations Officer, Vince McConey. And to my left is our Chief Engineer, Dave Hoppin-James. Good? All right. I'm hoping you can hear me without having to stand in front of the mic. So I'm going to try and wing it with that. So I'm going to tell you first off where we dredge and why, where we put the material and why, where we're moving the material, and then I'm going to tell you about this particular project and the details associated with it. From this diagram, you're going to see our facility is here. Currently, the Corps of Engineers dredges about a 100-foot canal down the middle, and they dredge to a depth of minus 12 below mean low water. We do the same thing for our operations as well, because as time goes on, this canal starts filling up, and our vessels start hitting shoals that can either damage or hinder our operation. So the dotted line you're seeing here is where we dredge. The white line is where the Corps of Engineers dredges. We then put this material in what we consider, it's called a confined disposal facility. We make sure we put it on this particular picture so you can see where we take it from to where we're putting it to. The methodology and the way we conduct this is called hydraulic dredging. Basically, it's a cutter head, it's got a suction hose, and we basically pull in a slurry of the silt as well as water, and it gets put into this facility here. As time goes on, that water gets poured off, and I'll show you a better picture, and then what's left is nothing more than the dredged material. Now, in the last 10 years, I checked our records, we've dredged 7 times. On an average, we remove about 40,000 cubic yards after it's dry. All this requires permits from both the federal level and the state level. The federal level being the Corps of Engineers, because they regulate all the waters of the U.S., as well as the state through the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. And they regulate, of course, the lands. We get these permits each time we do this dredging operation. We move the material into this site, and this is a nice aerial, where we've had berms built around it, and we keep increasing these berms as we keep putting material. And keep in mind, the ferry's been around since the mid-60s. We can't keep putting more material in here and keep building this up. We're at a point of being capacity. So at this point, we've actually, in preparation for this, we've divided up the site with a separating berm with the idea that we can still pump on one side and start excavating on the other and moving it to another location. We're going to get to that. So what goes in here is really a combination of a slurry that's made of silts, clays, a little bit of sand, and a lot of water. While it doesn't show up very well in here, there's a weir over here, and the water goes into this facility with the slurry. The solids settle out. The water, clear water, goes to the top. It goes into this weir, goes back into a ditch, and goes right back into the canal again. As time goes on, it settles out, it turns solid, and we put another layer on year after year. As I said, in the last 7 years, we've been dredging quite a bit. This has been going on since the 60s. As I also said, we can't keep building this up any further. So we're at a point where we need to start moving material. And the place we decided to move the material was over here by the airport, where everybody is aware of. And this is the runway area, and the runway pathway comes through here. And this is called a runway protection zone. Now, several years ago, we purchased this land, and we started removing obstructions in preparation for a clear path in case there's an over or underrun on any of the airplanes that come through here. And that's what this initial clearing was. And again, that was done probably about 3 or 4 years ago. As part of this project, we're now clearing out more trees. And we had about 13.5 acres. The total site that we needed to clear out was about 25, so we're taking out another 12 over here. The reason we're doing all this is because we need to get another 10 to 12 years, 12 to 15 years of storage capacity out of here. And again, we're only talking about this lower half right now. The other part of this project is By clearing out more trees, we're building up this area, and we're making it an uneven area for any kind of a landing to occur, more flat for them. And we're only building up this site from 0 to, for the first 330 feet, it goes up at about 3%. That takes you to about 10 feet off the ground. And then it stays flat for the next 730 feet to the back, and that's it. So we're only going up 10 feet. Before we were given permission to do this, we of course had to get permits for this operation as well. We went through the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection once again, and we got what's considered an acceptable use determination. And part of that process is we had to test the soils here to determine what was inside them. Now, we had to follow what's considered the New Jersey Residential Direct Contact Soil Remediation Standards, which are the most stringent in the state. So I think there's been some concern about what's in there, and the answer is everything that we found is below, equal or below the limits, thresholds for what's set by the standards of the state. Now, the process in this contract that we're doing is, we first had to bid it. We awarded it to a contractor, JPC Group, out of Blackwood, New Jersey. They're here represented tonight. Contract value was $3,675,000. The contract duration was 275 days. We started this work back in November. There is approximately, in this area here, 225,000 cubic yards of material that needs to get moved out of it. As of this past Friday, we've removed 78,000. That represents 35% of the work. The process is, you may have seen piles everywhere, and what they're doing is they're letting it set for a little bit with the intent of trying to get some of the water that's stuck in it out. And then they're going to start grading it off with bulldozers and keep building it up and conform to the plan grades that I talked about earlier. As I mentioned earlier, we got to keep dredging, so come the beginning of March, we're going to start dredging again and filling up on this side. Contractor can still continue doing work on this side within limits, and then eventually this water will get poured off, and then ultimately he's going to take out this complete berm with it, and then we're done with the site. All the materials over here will get graded, it will get vegetated, get vegetation placed on it, and at that point, we'll be done with the project. I think there's been also concern about the appearance of it, as far as not being able to, that you're complaining about the trees being taken down. Again, we're only taking out what's necessary for the site. When it's all done, it'll be a nice vegetated meadow, and there'll be nothing more than mowed across with our maintenance facility. With that, I'd like to find out if there's any questions concerning what we're doing. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to come up and address it, please.
Just turn that microphone around facing council, please. And please state your name and address for the record.
Kathy Sowers on 505 Shunpike Road. First, I'd like to say congratulations to Frank and Mr. Perry. And now I'd like to address it to you guys. I need to know if the sludge is toxic. Is any of this stuff going to go into my well water and create a health problem for me and compromise my immune system? I have an intolerable immune system. When I sit outside in the summer, I want to know, am I going to smell this stuff? Am I going to be bothered by an excessive amount of flies and bugs because they're swarming around sludge? I want to know exactly when you intended to dump the sludge here. How long did you know you were going to do it before you did it?
The process takes quite a bit of time. So we've been working on this for well over a year, because the sampling and the permitting process takes a bit of time. The material, while you refer to it as sludge, is really nothing more than a slurry, as I mentioned before, of silts, clays, sand, and what you're commonly smelling out there are the organics. Pretty much the same thing you would smell if I put topsoil out there.
See, Mr. Summers in the Herald referred to it as the same as topsoil. If it was topsoil, you'd sell it, you wouldn't be dumping it.
That's a very good question, and if I could sell it, I would. Unfortunately, the state of New Jersey prohibits us from moving that material to other places and selling it like you said, simply because they don't want you to do what you're asking. They're saying, even though the material is clean and it meets their standards, you have to place it in only the places that you've designated, so we couldn't just sell it to everybody in this room and you guys put it in your yard, even though it meets the standard for direct contact at residential levels.
May I continue?
Yes, please.
Who decided to dump it there?
We bought that property, we needed a place to put
As in the DRBA
DRBA,
or
we
the
bought that
board of
property.
directors? Who was we?
the DRBA, in its engineering department, decided that we needed a place to move that material. We had that land available. We knew that it was the best location in terms of not impacting the surrounding people or the surrounding lands. We knew what the material comprised of based upon the tests that were done. And then we also knew that it was a good use in terms of protecting the runway zone. So by filling that up, you provide a better location in case a plane goes errant and has to land. So currently the way it is now, I don't know if you've seen any aerials, but that actually had standing water on before you got in there.
Mhm.
So we're actually raising it up and
And
keeping that.
wildlife and everything else too.
And
When
that
the
should
trees
all
are cut
return.
down, they're making room for dead dirt, so that doesn't make sense.
But it's not that dirt, it has organics in it, which is what you're smelling.
Which is what I'm concerned about.
We anticipate that once we have this spread, we have vegetation on it, that smell's gonna go away.
Well, I hope so. Now, what happens to the water runoff, since you have the grade and the slope? Is that water gonna go into Breakwater Road? Is it gonna go into my neighbor's yard that has 3 small children?
Everything is sloping to the front. There was a ditch there. I believe that ditching system, if I remember correctly, actually goes onto our property, which is the airport.
So you're saying none of that stuff is gonna come into our yards?
And the way it's set up now, it should not.
And what if it does? What are you gonna do?
We have a 300-foot buffer around it with trees.
Okay, so you're saying I'm not gonna have runoff.
Should not have runoff.
Will this affect any of us who want to sell our homes? You have to have full disclosure when you sell a house, which could jeopardize our house being sold to a potential buyer who finds out there's a sludge dump in the neighborhood.
Well, you keep referring it to a sludge,
To me, it's sludge.
but when you look at the composition, it's really not that. Sludge
So-
has a bad connotation to it, and this really isn't. This
So are
is
you saying in your experience, when you've dumped this stuff in neighborhoods before, that no one has ever had an issue trying to sell their house because of it?
Why would you have an issue?
Because you have to disclose it and those people don't want to live near it.
But it's not a waste,
To us, it is.
but it's
It
organic.
doesn't belong there, it belongs in the ocean.
You can't dump it in the ocean. It's been prohibited for many years.
From the EPA, I know, I read up for it.
Right.
Continue. Why did the DRBA not communicate to my council that you were doing this? They had no idea you were doing it.
We followed the standard procedures for submitting a permit. We actually do similar work as far as clearing obstructions and moving dirt at the airport. We've never had an incident when sincerely we did not believe this was going to be an issue with the surrounding community. The CDF is actually located closer to our residences, and in all the years that we've been dumping into it, to the best of our knowledge, we haven't had any complaints. They're closer than you are, so if we didn't expect any there, we wouldn't expect it where you are.
Going forward, are you going to let council know your intentions if you do this in another area?
Based upon this hearing, absolutely.
Do you have any idea where you're gonna dump this stuff next time?
We do not anticipate having this happen for approximately 15 years. At this point, we're not looking that far ahead.
Okay. Now, I get woken up by trucks every single morning, banging of metal from equipment on equipment, shaking my house when these trucks go by, because they're very large and they're noisy. I feel like the DRBA has jumped on me personally. And I want to know who's going to repair my foundation caused by the excessive amounts of trucks going to my house.
Well, I can start off by saying that the contractor's work hours are normal 7 to 5, Monday through Friday. They are working, as I said, Monday through Friday. If they work on a Saturday, to the best of my knowledge, they have not.
Oh, yes, they worked this Saturday. They woke me up again.
Okay.
There was noise there Saturday.
But when they lose production on a weekday, they try to make up for it on a weekend. Mind you, there's an
My
imperative
only
that
time to sleep in, by the way, thank you.
there is an imperative to try to get this done before the tourist season begins.
I don't
And-
really care about sports.
Okay. And those trucks that are bothering you would be even more hindering on the public roads during tourist season. So we're trying to get this done before that and have vegetation established before we start getting the warmer weather.
Now, you know, EPA standards change from time to time. What happens if it changes and it's not to the same standards when you first did this?
Generally, things that are grandfathered in when that happens.
And my neighbors have constant dirt on their cars and their plants when the street sweeper that goes by.
The street sweeper that we have is constantly running, and that's a good thing. That is a good thing because we're trying to keep the roads as clean as possible. So we have a full-time street sweeper. There have been a few incidences where there have been clumps that have come off tires, and when that's happened, we've had crews go out there and immediately pick it up when it's been notified. Our inspector is here this evening, and we're offering to give you his phone number in the event that somebody sees clumps that we didn't pick up on. Please give him a call. He'll be able to dispatch a contractor to that point in time.
Okay. Mr. Salmon in the Herald also said, oh, we only have 8 to 12 trucks a day. Is that true?
I'm going to defer to our contractor, how many are we running? I know we're running about 200 truck loads, but I don't know how many trucks is making up that circuit.
We run anywhere between 7 and 14 every day.
Trucks.
Trucks.
Trucks, okay. Assuming that I stood at my kitchen window and counted every 20 seconds a truck going by my window. That's a lot more. Now, assuming it's not 20 seconds, let's assume, and we'll give you credit, that it's 1 minute. That is still 4,140 trips a day,
The number we've had,
going back and forth.
the greatest number we've had of trips in a day happened to occur, I believe, today, and it was 219.
212.
212 truckloads, round trips.
Okay, according to the DRBA's 5-year 2019-23 strategic plan and capital improvement program dated February 2019, the DRBA knew it would dump the sludge and Great River Road. An entire year, and all the educated people at DRBA didn't think it would be wise to let the township know.
Once again, we do similar work in adjacent properties and did not have any incidences.
But that was in airport grounds, it wasn't across the street in the middle of residential.
And we do sincerely apologize that this caused so much problem. Believe me, if we had thought this would be an issue, considering we've been doing similar work, we would not have done it. We would have definitely given you better notice.
I just believe that the DRBA intentionally did not tell the township because they knew at least a year prior, and it was your intention to deceive the township and the people of Lower, and the only reason you say you're sorry is because you got caught doing it.
I will let you have your opinion.
What is your plan of action to remediate our water and wells if they get polluted, or if there's any damage to our homes or our property from this project?
The material has been tested. It meets residential contact standards. That means, well, I wouldn't suggest it. If we placed this in your yard and you came in contact with it, it's considered safe by their standards. Therefore, the contaminants that you perceive aren't in it, or certainly not to a level that would impact your wells.
And if it did, what would you do?
Then we would certainly investigate it and take responsibility if it was proven to be our fault.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Council, thank you for this opportunity today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can just hold off with DRBA towards the end in case there's more questions. We're going to move on with the agenda, and we'll come back to the DRB presentation. Let's move down to the consent agenda. Are there any council comments for the consent agenda? Nothing. Any public comments on the consent agenda? Close the public portion.
Approval of minutes from the January 22nd, 2020 meeting, resolutions number 2020-68 through 2020-79.
Make a motion to accept.
I'll second.
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Roy?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Perry?
Yes.
Mayor Sippel.
Yes.
Resolution number 2020-80, a resolution declaring the Township of Lower a Second Amendment / lawful gun owner sanctuary.
Okay, we have any council comments on this resolution? Any council comments? I'll make a comment in reference to the resolution. You know, I'm a strong supporter of Second Amendment, and even though this resolution is symbolic, I think it's important that the public understands what the elected officials stand for when it comes to the Second Amendment. And, you know, I did some reading on this, and I found it interesting. I saw a quote in the paper from James Madison, who served in Congress and then went on to become president. His quote said, "The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. A well-regulated militia composed of the body of the people trained to arms is the best and most natural defense of a free country." So I think that was a great quote by James Madison. So at this time, I'd like to open up the public portion to any comments on this resolution. Please come forward and state your name.
Bob Nolan, Cape May County. I live here in Lower Township. I just basically wanted to thank you as council for being responsive to the voice of the community. I know as your county sheriff, I've been throughout the county. I see that the freeholders have already taken steps to do a similar type of resolution. I know Middle Township did the same. As a card-carrying member of the NRA and a member of the local Bay Shore Sportsman Club, I can tell you that there's an awful lot of people that enjoy recreation, firing of their guns and practicing in a safe environment. Some of the things that are coming down from the government tend to infringe on those rights. And I think we need to have an awareness within the community. But I thank you, all four of you, individually and collectively, for being so responsive as to listen to the community and doing something, as we all know, this pertains to lawful gun ownership. Those people that are out there working hard and they get a little relaxation by going out and doing target practice with their families or play shooting and anything having to do with a firearm, it's becoming harder and harder in this day and age to do so. And I think by these token type of resolutions, that you're sending a message that you're also listening to those people who enjoy that type of activity. I commend you for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Anyone else? Anybody else want to address council? And just for the record, we received a couple of dozen letters supporting the Second Amendment, the resolution that come in the clerk's office. So that was good to see that. That being said, I close the public portion of the resolution. Comments?
Make a motion to accept?
I'll second the motion.
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Roy?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Perry?
Yes.
Mayor Sippel.
Yes. Give the manager's report, Jim? or not?
Yeah, I have to show up on there, so. I received this.
Hold up one second, I'm sorry. Are there any other public comments for the DRBA? Anybody else want to ask questions to the DRBA? Come on up, sir.
Howard Carl, resident here in Lower Town.
Can you come up to the microphone for us, please?
Howard Carl, I'm resident here in Lower Township, in Miami Beach area. And I'm not sure whether this is for DRPA, whether you folks would have knowledge of this. Is there an update on the status of, seeing as how we're on the subject of dredging, on beach restoration on the bay?
You're talking about the berms, Army Corps of
Yeah.
Engineers.
Right.
Yeah. We're still awaiting word. The last time, this does not have anything to do with the DRBA. But I'll give a quick answer, because, so you have it. We're waiting for Army Corps of Engineers. There's a 3-part plan. They were only gonna cover part of the villas, and there's 2 sections in Cumberland County. One of them backed off, so we're waiting word what they're going to do. It's the
Timeframe?
federal government.
Timeframes?
It's the federal government. They haven't given us a time frame. I've been fighting for this, and there's a couple other things we want to try to do, and we're going to see what we could do in a little bit, but right now, it's the Army Corps, as they said, the Army Corps of Engineers controls the waterways.
So it's my understanding that FEMA had reclassified practically all of villas as a,
AV.
right, VISO.
They did, which is the reason, sir, that we did not adopt the flood maps in Lower Township. We're the only municipality in the county for that reason, because we didn't think the way they were set up was fair. We invested a lot of time and research into this. We're still using Stockton University's Stu Farrell for this. We have a couple attorneys working on such, and the timetable's the factor. We don't know that timetable, but we do know we're in line, and if we get help from them, it's a huge project. It's over 50 million, but it would funnel down after federal and state funds that, even though they would most likely give us a 12-foot berm, we could top that off and take all those folks along the bay out of the flood zone. So it's worth the wait right now, because if we just had signed off, could have potentially had, I believe, close to 600 homeowners fall into the B flood zone, which would have been devastating to most of those individuals.
Well, it's not just the waterfront owners, because the V zone is going in like blocks.
That's
correct.
Almost the whole town.
Some areas it comes up all the way up to Bay Shore Road.
Right.
That's correct.
We're fighting it. We threatened to sue them. They backed off. That's why we're still on the old flood maps. We are still fighting, is what he's telling you, and we're trying to get them. It made no sense how they drew the maps. I mean, we have a worse rating than Wildwood.
Yeah,
Explain that one.
okay, so what?
We're still fighting. We have no time frame. The Army Corps has not gotten back to us. FEMA has really not gotten back to
This
us.
Army Corps of Engineer funds that are now being redirected to build the wall, I mean, is that?
No, this is different funds, but they were fighting to get funds for this one, and a place in Cumberland backed off and said, we don't want it. I said, hey, we can solve this real easy. We'll take it, finish the whole bills, and you give them one section to them. They didn't think that was the correct answer, but I thought it was.
All right, so
Those materials, though, are currently being moved from that Delaware Bay. The first commitment was to towns in Delaware. That was the first commitment. But they're going to be opening up another very large vault out there. We've seen what they can do, where they would do it, and it makes economic sense to them too, because Lower Township's a lot closer than pumping that all the way up the Delaware Bay to towns like Fortescue, etc. So we're in the study. It's a couple hundred pages. They've broken down the material, similar conversation and reading of all these materials being tested below the limits, but I don't see anything happening
I mean,
for at least a year, because we're still waiting for the Hereford Inlet project, which will run down through Diamond Beach that we're a part of, and that has sort of, it's not moving.
The intent is to dredge sand, right?
Yes.
Not sludge or.
No, it's
dredge.
sand.
They're clearing out basically the bay where all the big ships go, the shipping lanes.
All right, thank you.
We're trying to stay on top of that, and it's a nightmare.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, Tom Nelson in the Ernest section in the bills, or down by the airport. And now that I found out that this project is a year, that you knew about it for a year, did you consider putting it on the other end of the runway, where the old dump used to be, where there's no housing, and nobody to
Yes,
buy.
I'm gonna let our chief engineer, who's well versed in the aviation side.
So this site presented a nice opportunity. One, it falls within the DRB airport property, whereas some of the land on the other side of that runway does not fall within the DRB's property. Two, this site in particular is the approach to our primary runway at the airport. And so a couple things that this project benefited from, in addition to moving this material from the ferry, was that we were able to regrade a fairly roughly graded area. And this is where we just extended the runway. We noticed that about 4 years ago, we pulled the southern end of this runway a little closer to the road here. We did that because we had to achieve certain safety area requirements for the airport. So the secondary benefit of this project is that we're able to level off the ground here, and therefore any overruns or underrunning aircraft come down and have a better performance. Two, as the primary runway, the approach surfaces are very low to the ground off the end of the runway. And so a lot of the trees in this area are designated to become obstructions in a short period of time. So the clearing also is beneficial to the airport.
You did the same clearing on the other end of this.
And a lot of that land actually is county property. We work beyond our limits in coordination with the county, but it wasn't our property.
And you couldn't work out a deal to cap that old dump with all this mud?
I suppose we could have.
And possibly work a deal with the county to take this mud up to the county and cap their dump with it, being such perfectly good soil?
Very possibly could. Actually, acceptable use determinations are going to use the cap landfills.
And next time, let's look into getting rid of it and using it for a better purpose other than just destroying a beautiful piece of land.
Well, again, I'd like to give us the benefit of the doubt, at least for the time being. We did little buffer trees around the site. Our actual property limits go a lot further than what we're filling here. And we tried to leave a tree buffer around the site to try and contain it. But also, I think for breakwater, when we're finished, it's a 3% grade. It's a very gentle grade away from the road. It's 1,000 feet deep, only 10 feet high. I think it's going to look a lot like it does.
I hope so, because it looks like shit already. And
Well,
from what I understand, you're only 35%.
Well, it looks bad right now because they're windrowing the material to try and
I
air
work
it out.
construction, I understand what's going on, but.
So it'll look a lot better when we're done. If you give us
You're
the
full
benefit of the doubt.
already, and you're gonna put another,
I think you'll be amazed. It's a 3% maximum slope, but it's incredibly gradual. So I think, now from the sides and the back, there will be upwards of a 10-foot berm back here. From the road, you shouldn't really see much at all. You do have some trees around the entire perimeter. Our expectation was to do that to protect the viewshed of the surrounding property, so they wouldn't have to look at a berm. This berm is going to be vegetated, not terribly high. It's not going to be like a mountain. It's very large.
it's a shame, but the other end, there's not a single house anywhere around. It seems like about the same amount of area.
What we have decided, if there's a sparse area in the trees and someone feels that there's a viewshed impact, we could plant a low-growing species of tree to try and address those concerns.
Seems like it'd be a better place on the other side of the runway on Building Mill Road. That's all.
Thank you.
Bill Greenfield, Bill.
Bill,
The houses that are impacted, are they don't have city water, city sewer?
From what they're saying, there's a large buffer, but the neighbors can tell you better. But right now, there is no city water over there.
And maybe some thought should be given to running city water.
We need to go to an MUA meeting, Bill. No, yeah, I'm just saying, they're making plans to run water and sewer that way already,
Timeframe on that?
within the next few years.
And maybe you could get the DRBA to help offset some of the costs of that stuff there, since they're impacting the area. That's just a suggestion.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I don't really need to speak to the public, other than Kathy represented our neighborhood and what we're all finding.
Hey, ma'am, can you come up and give us your name for the record, please?
I was trying very hard not to do that. Sherry Zabrowski, I live at 504 Sunrise. The problem is yes, some of the trucks have been diverted to another street, and they're not coming up and down Shunpike as much as they were. Everything Kathy says is exactly what's going on with all of us. Anyone would like to go out and look at my car? It's got covering on it, and it's not coming off real easy. I've already had it detailed, and it came all right back. It's a mess. Our biggest concern is our wells. That's our biggest concern. If you go down Shunpike and you look, in my front yard, I have a rock berm, which, by the way, your sweeper has absolutely made a complete mess out of. And actually, the sweeper does more damage than the actual trucks. At least when it falls off the truck, it's mud. When that sweeper comes by, all that sweeper's doing is putting it all in the air, to the point that you can't even go out and lift the nail. So, yes, I'm angry that other things were not considered, and other things were not told, and that we were not told anything about this, because yes, it has impacted our neighborhood, but I just didn't want anyone to think that it was just Kathy. She's just the well-spoken person that was putting it all out there for us. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Question for you,
Yeah.
because I do know where your house is. I believe it's maybe just 2 or 3 in from Breakwater.
It's one in. There's one house on the corner, and I'm the second one in, yeah.
You're on the west
I
side.
know the MUA is coming down Shunpike, but there are, because some people have requested to go further, so they're coming down next year. They're doing Breakwater and coming down, and a couple of those streets are getting taken care of. But has anyone reached out to you about sewer and water?
No.
So you feel you'll still be septic? I will check that, and if you would you call our clerk's office Wednesday? I'm just curious of that, because I want to bring the concerns up to Mr. Chapman at the MUA, and what is going on. And I'm sorry that that's happening on those houses, and it's correct. We did not know this was happening, but we did ask them to change the procedure so it wouldn't be Shunpike, and for the most part, it's been Route 9 for the past, so, you know, we tried to break that up, so it
Yes,
wasn't.
I know your office did that, because I know people who called and said it was ridiculous. We've had, as you know, I've lived there, we built our house like 35 years ago. I like my well water, I don't really want to necessarily, you know, but I'm very, very concerned. Yes, it might not have the chemicals that are horrible, but we are still talking salt water, we are still talking sewage, and that does not belong where it is. So, I'm sorry, but in my opinion, you basically ruined our neighborhood. And the people that live, I'm lucky enough that at least I live on this side of Shunpike, but the rest of the people that live on the other side, this is all coming up right up to their backyards. And that's a shame. And it's a shame that none of us were aware of it. So, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
For some clarification, the county has, Cape May County has requested that the haul route be exclusively Breakwater, Route 9, and Sandman. So if you see any trucks that are on Shunpike, it isn't part of our operation.
Well, whose is it then? I'm
I
sorry.
don't know, but it is not ours. We definitely have isolated our path, Breakwater, 9, Sandman. And that's been going on for 15th of this past month.
But if you do see something, we'll give you our inspector's number, give us a call. They should not
Yeah,
be.
because the trucks, I mean, no one has been putting covers on the trucks.
We can't have conversations in the pool, you look up the microphone, you want to talk, it's all recorded. Anybody else?
I have one more thing to say.
Hold up.
Go ahead.
Come up, sir.
Kevin O'Brien, Burma. What I'm here to address is the trucks. I'm wondering who's policing the trucks. And I've been in the trucking business myself for 44 years. I can show you a statute, 39 code, 39-477. It has to do with targeting loads, making sure stuff doesn't fall off, and all the other things that go with trucks. And these fellas, they just seem to be in a hurry. I don't know if they're paid by the load, whether they're paid by, by the hour, which really doesn't matter. But back when I did it, I had to get out, I had to clean my license plate, I had to clean the lights, make sure nothing would fall off, and nobody seems to care. Plus, there is an ordinance, and now mind you, I understand that the stuff won't fall out of the body because it doesn't reach the top, but you're supposed to have a card. It's in the books, I brought the book with me if anybody wants to see it. And, but nobody seems to care. Now, what kind of shape, now, trust me, I'm not accusing anybody of speeding, I'm not accusing anybody, but what kind of shapes are the trucks really in? If you go down Ferry Road or Sandman, whatever it is, the lights, check out the skid marks. There are plenty, a lot of these guys don't run with their axles down, so they're not tarped, they're in a hurry, Jake braking. I mean, it's just they're cowboys, and they don't seem to care. And I can show you pictures of stuff that's on the bodies of the trucks. And that's, that's about it. I'm just wondering who's policing the trucks, that's all. Thank you.
Your point is well known. The contractor is here, so he's hearing it directly from your mouth.
Okay.
I'm certain he'll be policing and talking to the
Well,
truck.
somebody should. I mean, it's just, the need for the street sweeper wouldn't be necessary if the fellas got out. Now, mind you, they might get a little mud on their shoes, but it wouldn't be necessary if they took an extra 2.5 minutes or whatever it would take to brush off the whatever. I mean, it's just, it's common courtesy is what it is. And then, not running with the axle down. They're designed to have it down when you're loaded. Nobody seems to care. Scooting by, when you come up to a traffic light, for what? For all the mountains that are here? There aren't that many. Not on Sandman Boulevard, not on Route 9, not many mountains. So, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, new manager's report.
One item. All right. As a proactive measure, since we do have many of the local guests here, I will give you now advance notice that there is a subsequent project to this, and it's going to be the second portion of Sandman Boulevard from Bay Shore to our toll plaza. We are going to be working on that when this project ends. We're in the process of completing those design documents, and that's going to be improvements to the pavement. That'll be improvements to the overhead sign structures. We'll be putting in new signposts on the side. I think the biggest one is going to be, we're going to be improving Beach Drive. Now, those of you who live by the north side of it, our intent is to mimic the same thing on the south. So there'll be a sidewalk, widened up road, and there's going to be lights along that road. So I'm giving you notice now that you mean?
Is that going out to the park?
Oh, yeah, the park.
Yes.
That is the next project. Giving you advance notice now, it's on the way. So when you see that happening, not a surprise.
Okay, let's move to the manager's report.
This morning, gentlemen, we received correspondence from the state of New Jersey, specifically the governor's office, which stated that on last Tuesday, this is unbeknownst to me, but the Green Acres program we've been involved with for years, they sent people down and did compliance inspections for Freeman Douglas Park. At the time of the inspection of Freeman Douglas and the Bay Shore acquisition, at the time of the inspection, both projects were found to be in beautiful shape, with all facilities in superb shape and very well maintained. As you know, Freeman Douglas Park is leased to the township by the Division of Gaming and Wildlife. We appreciate the efforts you have made thus far in maintaining your facilities, for we understand the difficulties accompanying these operations. It is our continuing concern that the projects acquired and developed with Green Acre funds be operated and improved in accordance with the project agreements, and your next inspections will be in 2023. So, this came from Governor Murphy and Sheila Oliver's office. And with regards to that, next week on Roseanne Avenue. Murphy Fence is scheduled to install the fence around the pump house down there, which will certainly beautify that end of Roseanne Avenue. And concrete trucks will be coming into Roseanne Avenue doing sidewalks next week. They're reconnecting the water lines and chlorinating again this week. The main pipe is closed up, and basically they'll be cleaning up the site in the next week and a half. So we're getting closer. That's all I have tonight.
All right, thank you. We'll go right into the council comments.
Congratulations, Dave. I think everyone's heard enough tonight. Don't need to hear any more from me. Roland?
Congratulations also, Dave, and myself. Thank you. Very much deserved and quite competent in the position, I'm sure.
Deputy Mayor?
I'd like to thank the Lower Township Regular Republican Organization for having their confidence in me to put my name in to take this position. I also like to thank my fellow council members who I've worked with for the last 5 years, and I look forward to continuing the progress that we've made in Lower Township. Zero tax increase coming up this year, the projects that we've done and continue to do, the infrastructure projects that are coming up, giving the people what they really need, what they deserve, as far as better drainage, better paved roads, things that make the quality of life a lot better here in town. So I really look forward to that. I'd also like to thank the township employees. Not just the paid ones. We have a lot of boards. We have the planning board, zoning board, rec advisory board, that all volunteer their time to make everything go the way they are right now in this township. Also, I'd like to shout out to our volunteer firefighters. Without the volunteers, taxes would definitely be going up for sure. They do a great job, and they save the taxpayers a lot of money. Unsung heroes, so to speak. Also, I'd like to thank my wife and my family for supporting me to let me do these type of things, to work for the township. That's about all. Thanks.
Good job, Deputy Mayor. Just one comment on the fact that manager and your staff are putting that budget together. I've come down here on the weekends, on Saturday, I saw the employees actually in their office working the budget. 0% budget is it's not an easy thing to do, and I appreciate all the effort that you gave with that. So other than that, that's all I have, and I need a motion to adjourn.
Public comment.
Public comments. I'll second.
Call the public. You have a call to the public.
You do? Okay, I thought we were
Seems
supposed
like
to.
the public's been.
I thought we already did all the public. Come up to the microphone, sir.
Yeah, I didn't realize that we were ending the meeting.
We kind of jumped around tonight. Once they got done their presentation, entertained questions, we kind of got sidetracked, but you're on.
All right, I'm a new resident, Diamond Beach, retired down here. I've been coming down to Wildwood for the past 20-some years. Absolutely love it. Okay, Wildwood Crest, Lower Township, Diamond Beach. I own a house over in Diamond Beach right now. What I'm here for is basically to ask the assistance of the council and the mayor. We have a situation going over there right now that, number one, we have a junkyard in the middle of Diamond Beach. It's not being created by the residents, it's being created by Icona. There is a R6 zoned lot behind the Icona office building off of Atlantic Avenue behind Seaview, right next to Diamond View. I don't know if you're familiar with those condos. When you look out the windows of the Diamond View condos, you're looking down into this junkyard. Now, what's there is construction debris, old chairs, lounges, this, that, whatever. Whatever they have left over from the Star Bar that they erect on the beach is dumped there. Now, I do have pictures if you'd like to see. I have 6 sets here if you want to pass them around. This is the condition today. Now, I did have a meeting with Gary Playford. And I left Roland a couple messages, which you didn't get back to me. I don't know if I got the right extension or whatever. But a week ago, this past Thursday, Mr. Playford, me, and another resident from Wildwood Crest met at the site. Mr. Playford told me that he would be going and talking to Icona to turn around and say, hey, look, we got to clean this up a little bit. Icona's answer was, well, we have this big storage bin over in Wildwood that we're going to put everything in. Now, if you look at the pictures there, you're going to notice that what's there is garbage. Doesn't need to be stored. It needs to have 1-800-JUNK come in and take it out. Now, they did start cleaning this up after our complaints in early November. They put a couple dumpsters, they filled them up, they stopped. That is the condition as of Friday. I was out of town today, so I wasn't able to update my pictures. But as you can see, I mean, there's no reason for any of this to be here. This is zoned R6. Now, as a former construction code official, I sort of feel bad that, you know what? Gary got disrespected. He was made promises evidently by Icona that they were going to do something. That was over a week and a half ago. We're going to 2 weeks. They have not done anything. Now, I don't want to see any kids go in there because it's open and easily accessible. I've heard that we got rats over there. This is 2 blocks from my house. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask the city council if they could take the time to look into to see if they can have any effect to get Icona to clean this up. I don't want us to make waves or anything along that line.
Sir, can I have your phone number and address for the record, and I will take care of this week?
My name is James Sanford.
Mr.
And
Sanford.
I'm over at, my
Mr. Sanford.
address is 315.
Mr. Sanford, can you give it to him in private afterwards, this way?
Oh,
not
okay.
everyone has your
All right,
information.
after, all right. So that's what I'm here for. I just asking the assistance of the council and seeing if we could take care of this. There is one other issue that I have, and I don't know if anybody here is aware of it. I don't know who lives over in that area, that part of Diamond Beach, or who doesn't, that's on the council. But you had brought up something about the Army Corps of Engineers and dunes. Now, from the Hereford Inlet, all the way up to Cape May Inlet, all the way up to Cress Avenue, at the beginning of the boardwalk, we have dunes. We have protection from a storm. I mean, they may not be, qualified, and as I understand it, the Army Corps of Engineers is gonna come through and bring them up to a height of like 20-some feet. But everywhere from that inlet up to the boardwalk has dunes, except for Icona. There is a gap, and I've watched it with high tide, and I've watched it with the offshore winds, and the beach is blowing away. The dunes were removed, okay? Now, there were dunes there back in 2013, and what happened was the state allowed Icona to put a tiki bar. It was supposed to be a small little tiki bar out on the beach. Well, that has now turned into 2 event tents, a gigantic bar, open fire pits, cabanas, and the whole 9 yards, from the bulkhead at the back of Icona right to the water's edge. Now, 2 weeks ago, we had some heavy winds offshore. I stood there and I watched the beach blow into the ocean. Now, I also have pictures of those if you'd like to see them. And what's happening is that whole section of Diamond Beach between Rochester, Jefferson, and along Sea Point, where you have Sea Point, Icona, and the Grand, is unprotected. If we get a storm, we at least, on my street, have dunes between us and where the Diamond Beach Club is. We have a couple 100 feet of dunes. Everybody else does too, except
Sir,
Yes.
I will be glad to sit down and do, I've been in multiple meetings with this, and the Grand does not have dunes at all, and I don't want to debate this tonight, but I'll meet with you, but I want you to know, this council supported that operation going back, and there's going to be dunes across the whole area. The concerns that are happening right now, when it gets down there, they will be there. There's going to be a dune, because I've been approached by people from Sea Point that have lost their views, but
Well, that's the
it's
issue
coming,
with-
so, and we have to pay our share, but it's minimal, not just for those people in the front. That will cover the folks all the way back to the bay. And in the event that there is a storm and the sand washes, the town gets, that replenishment is good for 50 years. And you see it in effect now with Cape May, because that sand, they're a part of the program, and every winter they're being replenished, and that's why the council voted to do it. So that's gonna happen, and I'll be glad, like I said, but tonight to debate, there's so many factors with that. Right now, just so you know, there will not be, I'm told from zoning, there will not be 2 wedding tents on the beach this summer. I believe a week and a half ago it was passed for the wedding tent to be 3 floors up in the hotel. So there's modifications that are taking place as we're speaking here.
No, I
So,
understand,
I
I
want
was
you-
at those meetings, and this has nothing to do
Well, you
with
said,
Icona's
well, you said about
addition
there's
and all
not
of
gonna
that.
be any dunes there. There are going to be dunes there, all the way
Okay.
down.
Well, I just trying to make the
Okay.
council aware that right now, there's nothing,
That's correct.
okay? And that has, a lot of the residents are concerned. I don't even want to bring up the addition and all of that. That really got crazy. But I'm more concerned about, we have a storm, and that comes down. Sea Point's gonna get killed. You know what I mean? And because
Sea Point has enough sand to do their own, so that's not an issue. Again, I don't.
No, I'm saying it's a breach
No,
right at Icona.
Yeah, I think you need to meet together, Jim, you still get together, work it out during the week, we'll follow the manager to see where you're at,
Yeah,
okay?
All
I'd be
right.
glad to sit down
Sounds good.
and or meet you over there.
Pardon?
I can meet you over there.
That's not a problem, okay? I'll give you my information.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for
Well,
your
since
time.
we're calling the public, anybody else? Close the public portion.
Motion to adjourn?
Favor?